Corinthians chapter 5 today. These are some verses that I look at quite a few times just to give myself a little perspective of who I am and where I'm doing and where I'm going with my life. And I like to give this message out. And most of my messages are definitely things that I've read that I'm actually preaching to myself. You know how the deal is when you point the finger, you got three pointing back at you. So this is actually pointing to me today, and what I usually say is, I'm going to preach this to myself today, and if you get something out of it, there's no extra charge. I'll be glad for you to get something out of it. But he says here, for we know that if our earthly house of this tabernacle were dissolved, we have a building of God, an house not made with hands, eternal in the heaven. He said our earthly house, that's just this body. You know, if we can only get an idea that what we're looking at with each other, sometimes we're judged on what we look like. As a guy I went to high school with, I saw him yesterday. He said, I didn't recognize you with I said, no hair? He said, well, yeah, but I didn't want to say that. I said, well, it's fine. I mean, it's just a fact. But this old body that you see right here, I know most of you didn't know me back years ago, but I definitely looked better than I do now. This body has changed. But the deal is, your car that you're driving today is not as nice as the day that you bought it either, is it? Right. You see, but you're just using that to travel back and forth in. That's all your body is. Amen. Your soul is what's going to count. Yeah. And we're just traveling through this world in this body. It's just my vehicle. I'm a totally different person inside. I'm a lot nicer than I look, if you could only see a little deeper. But he says, if our body, or in this earthly tabernacle, were dissolved, I don't want to change God's word, and I'm not doing that here, but it's more than if. It's going to change. It's going to be dissolved. Amen. If he doesn't come. Yeah. We're going to go to the ground one way or the other. And he says, we have a building of God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. Sometimes we want to take care of this old body. How much time you reckon we, and when I say we, I mean the men too, have we spent in front of a mirror? I used to spend a lot of time combing the hair. Now I spend more time plucking hair out of my ears and such, you know. But I don't mind my head refusing to grow hair on the top. I just wish it wouldn't rebel and want to grow it out everywhere else. You know, but we spend time in front of a mirror, and we take care of this old body. But think about it. We're going to have one day that's not like this one. The reason I was here early at church today, I had to go on a call this morning, and there was a deputy there that asked me this morning, he says, "You're limping. Are you all right?" And I said, "No. I got aches and pains, but I didn't know I was limping. But yes, I got some problems with it. This old body is not going to limp one day, and that's a good deal." But I want us to key in on verse 2 here. He says, "For in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed upon with our house which is from heaven." Do you know that we do not understand what drives us sometimes? Grasp this today with me a little bit. We don't understand what's happening to us. I wish I had had time. Doing this morning sprung on me a little bit, so I don't have all the illustrations in line. But we had a bad storm where it took trees down and everything a couple of weeks ago, and the rain was going sideways. And there was hail hitting the windows in our house, and I thought they were going to break out. And my horses were running in the pasture wildly. You see, they were getting hit. Somebody was throwing rocks at them. Yeah. Something was happening to them that they did not understand. This hail was big, and it was hitting them, and they were like, "How do I get away?" And it was protecting them this side of the pasture. Well, it was doing it over there, so they run to this side. They didn't understand the forces on their body that day, but here we got the same thing happening. It says we groan earnestly. Earnestly. That's an important word. We groan earnestly, desiring to be clothed upon with our house which is from heaven. Yeah. Now let me tell you why I know that that's true. People are driven to try things because where they're at is not being satisfactory to them. don't care how much money somebody comes and hands you. We were just talking about the money this morning, wasn't it? Man's getting a raise. Anybody want to go out to eat today? Yeah. But we always want a little more, don't we? We always want a little more. And people are always wanting a little more. I use this illustration all the time, especially in the ministry that I do, going to the detention centers. And some people just probably get tired of hearing it, and it's heard it over and over, but it's a true thing that we can take two people that are on completely opposite parts of the world or spectrum of society. Let's take the first one. Let's take a homeless guy. Spent the night under a bridge last night. And this morning he woke up because he had gotten a hold of a little money and he had used some drugs. Now, let's take somebody on the opposite end of the spectrum. Let's take just a person that I usually pull out of a hat as an illustration. Let's take Whitney Houston. Does everybody know who she is? She was a beautiful lady. Looks, talent, gotten rich. But does anybody know what she died of? Same thing. Now what did they have in common? One couldn't go to the Grants Park and get the admission to get in the zoo if he wanted to. She could have had a jet to pick her up at the airport and go to Hawaii for a month for a vacation. Totally different ends of the spectrum. So what do they have in common? You say, the drug. No, that's not what I'm aiming at today. That's what manifested both the problems here. But it could have been one of them's drive to be successful in their job. There's a yearning within every one of us to have something that most of us don't have. We were built to have fellowship with God. Amen. And to spend eternity with Him. Yep. Now, if we've got that down, we're going to have this yearning inside, even in the good times, even in the best times, to be drawn to Him, and we're not even going to understand it sometimes, the problem. If we can't understand it, then we're going to take what we think is a suitable substitute. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to have some more hobbies. I'm going to go fishing. I'm going to go hunting. I'm going to do nothing wrong with all those things, but if they become the substitute, they're not going to satisfy. Amen. Amen. Not long term, but there's a yearning. We've grown. Now, I don't know that we verbally grown, but within us, we've grown. That we want something we don't have. Have you ever thought you'd be satisfied if you could just get this? Remember when we first got married, we bought this little house. It was the guy I worked with described it as a cracker box. He said something about my cracker box house, and I was offended. Well, it was a cracker box house. It was this big. No room in the closets, had hangers on the back of the doors, hang clothes on. And Angie was born, man, we were just busting out of the seams. So I said, if I could just have a bigger house, I'd be satisfied. I'd just be satisfied. So we found a way to build a house. Man, we thought that was great. Wasn't there long till I said, I like this house, but I've got a basement working. I'd be satisfied if I just had a workshop. Built a workshop. Took me a long time to do it, made one block at a time. Got it done. I wish I had a barn. I'd be satisfied. That's how we are. Yeah. And nothing wrong with having goals and wanting to get some things in life, but we got to understand those are just occupying us till we get to this new body. We're going to go into this life is so short. It's like the grass. I was at the cemetery yesterday we had a funeral, and the preacher was talking about how that we're just like the grass. And I'm looking at the grass. I'm thinking, yeah, this grass needs cutting. But we're going to pass away just like the grass when this body is. But this soul is going to live forever. Amen. if we can just get the priorities right, what's the most important? I use illustration again, and I hate to keep coming back, but these things work for me, so I'm conveying it back to you. That, and some of you have heard this illustration that I give all the time, that if we saw a person walking down the street and he's got a piece of rope in his hand and it goes to a dog's neck, what are we going to say? We're going to go say, there goes a man and his dog. But what if I were to say to you, hey, look, there goes a dog and his man? You say, what did you say? Didn't you get that backwards? Well, we normally ascribe the lesser to the greater. Now, I know some of you think the dog's the greater. I mean, sometimes people are that way. I mean, swerve to miss the dog, but run over the person, you know. We're going to talk about running over squirrels, are we?
Amen.
I taught a Sunday school lesson, what, 25, 30 years ago? And I taught a bunch of Sunday school class, but for some reason, the illustration about the squirrel seems to take over. Told it to the preacher one time, because I think Misty and Melissa both told him the illustration was, the message was on being committed. I did a whole series on being committed. And I said, you know, the deal is squirrel, fast, agile, very athletic, possum, slow. But we see more squirrels dead in the road than we do possums. Why? Possum, he's committed. He's going to get across the road if he can. Some don't make it. But a squirrel, have you ever seen them run this way, run that way? They're not committed. So I usually try to run over them just because they're not committed. And the preacher started doing that. He thinks that's fun too, but he ends up running off the road. The preacher wanted to know, should he get off-road tires for his truck? And I said, at least on the right side. But back to the dog. The dog, we got that backwards. But if I were to say, Brandon, every man's got a soul. That sounds right, don't it? Wrong. Every man don't have a soul. Every soul has a man for a little while. Then the man or the body goes away. The soul lasts. So what are we going to put our priorities on? It says we groan earnestly. If so, now let's go on a little bit farther. I bogged down a little there. If so be that being clothed, we shall not be found naked. Now that's talking about the soul having a body. For we that are in the tabernacle do groan, being burdened, not for that we would be unclothed. We don't just want to get rid of the body. No. It wants to transition into where it's been made for. But clothed upon that mortality might be swallowed up of life. We don't want to just be out of the body. We want fellowship with God. And the problem is, most of us, even as Christians, don't understand that a lot of the time. And the world don't understand that at all.
Amen.
They don't understand it at all. Because if you take a guy that's dead broke and give him $1 million, this time next week, he's going to need another $1 million. The next week, I need a little more. I need a little more. And none of that's going to truly satisfy. I mean, we don't have to look around far to see illustrations of that. There's nobody satisfied with what they got. They got to have a little more and a little more. And that's the way it goes. And we don't understand our groaning within us until we start finding it. See, these kids that gave testimonies, they actually gave testimony today that tells us that they found a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Because you see some satisfied looks in their eyes when they come back.
Amen.
But the problem with us as Christians, and sadly so, we have a mountaintop experience like that, and we get focused. Our glasses get cleaned off, and we see the important things and the priorities, and we head toward that. But yet, just a little, the world starts rubbing on us a little bit, and all our stuff gets to be short-sighted. We get short-sighted.
Amen.
And all that goes away. Let's go on a little farther. Now, he that hath wrought us for the selfsame thing is God. Now, Now he that hath wrought us for the self-same thing is God. He made us for a purpose. He made us for a purpose. You know, potential is so lost in even churches that I dare say that a large portion of this congregation will never find what God has written on the chalkboard He wants this person to do. You say, oh, I'm an electrician. I hope I'm not going to hit somebody's occupation. Or I'm a plumber, or I'm a CPA. Sorry, Mike. I'm a truck driver, I'm a whatever. Those are occupations. Occupy till I come. He says. We got to do something.
Yeah.
I have to believe that when God decided to blow that breath of life into me, He said, all right, here goes. I want this guy to do this. Amen. And if I never find it, then there's going to be a void. I'm not going to get a grasp on that eternity thing. And without that, we have to believe. He says, what did I just read? He says, the self-same, now he that hath wrought us for the self-same thing is God. And God is not like us. But we do have some things like Him. I do chainsaw carving. And power company had a tree that was about to fall on the power line. They took it down, left part of it. So as Marie and I drove out this morning, I said, I got to do something with the rest of that tree. I got to decide if I want to cut something out of it. If it's going to be good for that. I think it's going to have some problems that might not lend itself to that. It's got some rocky sides to it. Now, I have been doing this for several years, and I never have cranked that chainsaw and just started whacking up a storm at this piece of wood. Unless somewhere between these ears, I've got an idea of what I want to make out of it.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm just a mere human being that don't do a good job at being that sometimes, don't you believe God, when He blew some breath into us, He said, here's what I want to do.
Amen.
Isn't that a little exciting? That it don't matter if you're 80 years old or 8 years old, to find out what the Creator decided to make of you.
Amen.
But how many people reaches that grave one day and never finds that out? See, we got a yearning to get there, but we also got within us something that probably will not put you where you thought you might be if you'll just give yourself to God. It'll make a difference. He says, He that hath wrought us for the selfsame thing is God, who also hath given us the earnest of the Spirit. You see, He says, all right, I'm going to give you the earnest of the Spirit so you know you got that one day and you can move toward that. But till you get there, I got some stuff for you to do. I got some things for you to do. And one of my constant messages, if I ever get an opportunity to speak, is to encourage people to find out what that is. And how do you do that? Well, you pray, read your Bible, and you start trying some things. Seeing the kids with the little toy things, it's got triangles, squares. What's these other things? The kids know them better than me. Crescents. And they're trying to stick them in there, and they look all frustrated. And finally they hit the right hole, and you see that smile. You say, there it is. You start trying some things. I tried singing in the choir one time. Song director told me I wasn't cultured. I don't know what that means. Did I not have a good voice, or I just didn't know how to, I don't know. But anyway, that worked. Work with teenagers. Me and Marie worked with teenagers. That didn't work. We had some success. Mandy, that used to come here, she was in our teen groups, and she's given testimony about some of the things that we did. So I know that we had some success. Yeah. I wasn't cut out to do that. I'm not cut out to do what I'm doing right here. You need stripes on for me to talk to you to do a better job. And God just called me for a certain thing. But He's got you And you can do some other things too, but if you'll start stabbing at it, maybe cut the grass, right, Brother Keith? Volunteer for that one time. It'll happen. He says, verse 8, we are confident, I say, and willing rather to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord, wherefore we labor that we, whether present or absent, we may be accepted of Him. Accepted of Him. Don't you want some approval from the one that created you? We seek approval sometimes from the wrong sources. Amen. We seek approval from our peers sometimes. And sometimes they're not going to be beside us when we stand before God. That's right. Nobody can stand between us and God. Verse 10 says, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ. Yeah. We're going to give an account. He's going to say, I gave you this many years. What did you find out? Verse 11. Now, here's a good reason to find out. Knowing therefore the terror of the Lord, we persuade men. But we are made manifest in God that, and I trust also, are made manifest in your consciences. Knowing therefore the terror of the Lord. You see, our finding out that the groaning or the desires within us are to be clothed with a heavenly body one day, or to find what He wants us to do right now, it's going to affect other people. Yeah. People are going to say, hey, what's this guy? What's this lady guy? Or what's this teenager guy going on that I don't understand and grasp? I need to find out. The terror of the Lord may happen on some folks unless we influence some folks. Now, I'm going to finish up here. This message has got so many parts. I wanted to go 2 or 3 more places, but we better not do it today. But I want you to do one thing today. I want you to think just for a minute past your present existence and to realize this was not the long range plan for you. God has got a heavenly existence for you. It's going to be for eternity. It seemed like it was only yesterday I was a kid playing in the dirt. But now look at me. You know, we view age a totally different way. Where I had to go this morning, there was an old gentleman that I knew back in the early 70s. Haven't seen him since then. But I thought he was an old man then. He's 92 years old now. And I thought, man, way back then in the 70s, I thought he was an old man, but he was a young man. Our perspective changes as we go along. But when we get to heaven, time's not going to mean anything. Right. Time's not going to mean a thing. You're not going to need a watch. And it's going to be for an eternity. Now, within you, within that lost person, if there's somebody here today that's not saved, even within you, there's that groaning that there's no way that you can comprehend, because even Christians sometimes have a hard time comprehending that groaning that makes us want something that we're not sure is. That's why I always use the illustration too, that you take a fish and throw it up on the bank, and some guy or alien flies in from another planet and says, man, look at that creature. He sure is happy. He's not happy. He's looking for happiness. He's trying to get back to the water. We're active. We're doing things. We're running to and fro. But we're looking for satisfaction. Yep. And those other things are not going to give it. So we got to have some more. Satisfaction is what God gives. And if we can find that, we're going to persuade Him to get saved. Now, if you're here today, I'm going to end this thing. If you're here today and you're not saved, you need to know that you're going to get eternal. house or a body in heaven one day. And this one you've got now is going to go away. It's going to go away. If you are saved, I want you to think today. I wish if just one person could determine today that I'm going to ask God to show me what He created me for. And I'm going to start striving to find out. I'm going to read my Bible. I'm going to pray and ask Him to show me what I was put here for. And I'm going to start trying to stab at things, and Him say, no, that door's not really what I want you to go through. Here's the one I want you to go through. And I want you to find. You see, within this church, there are tons of doors. Aren't there? Amen. Why? I can't do what Andy does. These folks up here, man, there's a bunch of buttons on that thing in front of Todd. I don't know if he knows what all of them are, but he's getting the right ones, I reckon. Amen. Everybody's got their own job. Even old Patrick, he's set in his station. That may not be the finished product, but people are standing. If you're in this church and you don't have a job, there's all kinds. Man, I appreciate Jimmy bringing the girls and having Marie clean them. That may not be God's final thing for you, for sure. Hope it's not. I hope there's more to it than that. But that's a step in finding what God wants us to do. Amen. And every bit of it's not here with a microphone in front of us. Some of the folks that has the most influence, we don't even hear them say it. Find what God's got for you. Let's pray. Lord, I thank you for this opportunity. I pray for this church. Each one of us will find that thing that you want us to do. Lord, I pray that we'll realize that groaning or yearning for more or satisfaction is for that heavenly existence, Lord. But while we're here, Lord, and that you leave us here to do a job, you said occupy till I come. I pray that we'll find not just that occupation that brings in the dollars, but those occupations where we occupy and give you the honor, Lord, to do your work, find what it is you have us to do. Now, I pray for our people, Lord, that you'll touch hearts. Every head still bowed. Somebody here not saved.